Well, Essendon has lost to Richmond in the VFL 74-52 in windy conditions, very difficult conditions at Kinetic Stadium down there in Frankston. There's quite a bit to talk about. There was a key injury in the game to an AFL-listed player. So we're going to talk all about it right now. So Richmond controlled this game from start to finish. Essendon kicked a couple of goals towards the end of the match to make the score look respectable, but Richmond did win this match pretty easily. But of course, what we all really want to know is how did the AFL-listed players go, and how did Darcy Parish go, who returned from injury for his first match? He's been right for a couple of weeks, but we had the bye in the VFL last week. And the news is he performed pretty well. He played most of the match. He came off a little bit and was managed in the last quarter. I think that might be a sign that he will be potentially playing in the match against Brisbane on Thursday. I know it's a 5-day break, but they were managing him and keeping him on the bench a little bit. He was obviously playing at above VFL standard. You can tell he was much better than most of the other players out there. There was an unfortunate injury to Saad El-Hawli. It looks like he's done a hamstring injury, so another soft tissue injury for the Bombers, which was unfortunate. So I don't know whether that's something we need to look into. I mean, it's frustrating that these injuries keep happening, especially to a young player. These tend to be often happen to players later in their careers when they do these hamstring injuries. But that is unfortunate. So Saad will be out for at least a couple of weeks. We don't know how bad the hamstring injury is. Just know that it was a soft tissue injury that he did. So he'll be out of action for at least a couple of weeks. If you like this channel, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps the YouTube algorithm. It will ensure you never miss a video. It only takes 1 second to do so. And unlike your KO subscription, it's absolutely free. There were also a couple of interesting things to look at in terms of players for the mid-season draft, including Richmond players. Massimo Rasso could be a player we're looking at. He was a pretty good player to watch. Also, Mutaz El-Noor, the big defender. Word is that we're looking at 2 ready-made defenders. Mutaz had a really good game with 21 disposals, 6 marks, and he's a big boy down there. So I don't know whether the Bombers recruiting staff are looking at him. His name keeps on coming up when you talk about the mid-season draft. So I was looking at a couple of Richmond players as well there. But how did the Bombers players go? Well, let's get into it. So Alwyn Davey Jr. kicked 1 goal, 1, had 10 disposals, 2 marks, 2 tackles, was kind of busy in the first half, faded a little bit, didn't notice him too much in the second half. He's the kind of player, I think, that if he's to push into the senior team, probably does need to kick goals, really. That's really what he needs to do. But really, with his age profile now into his 20s, hasn't played that many games, he's out of contract at the end of the year, I'd suggest that his time is probably limited at the club. I would suggest that he probably won't be on the list next year, especially with the 3 or 4 players from the mid-season draft that will be joining the club, which adds to the competition and means a lot more players are going to need to be cut at the end of the year. So that's going to make it even more difficult for Alwyn. Saad got injured early, so obviously he didn't really have an impact in the game. So we'll find out a bit later how serious that injury is. Kale Jarine, look, very, very difficult conditions. He's been in pretty good form lately. The last 3 or 4 matches, he's hit the scoreboard and he's got better as the season has gone on. But this was horrible conditions for him as a big key forward down there. Windy as anything. He actually didn't take a mark, which is unlike him. Had the 8 disposals, 2 tackles, 3 hit-outs. He does tend to help out in the ruck. He's nearly 200 centimetres. So he does tend to help out in the ruck when Vigo Visentini isn't there. But this wasn't really his night. It's just not the type of night that you could really judge him on either. He'll be judged on other metrics and other types of games. But he has been playing pretty well. I don't think he'll be getting a game this year, but I think next year, look out for him. Zach Johnson always gets a lot of the ball. Of course, he was third emergency for the Dreamtime game on Friday night. He had 27 disposals, 2 marks, 1 tackle, 1 clearance. His disposal was a little bit off. Everybody's disposal was off in this game. It's just the wind was blowing the ball everywhere. It was just one of those games that was hard. But you could tell his class. He's just a classy player. And he's going to be playing AFL football at some point. I think we probably expect him and Vigo Visentini probably to be the next 2 to get games, I would say, to be our 7th and 8th debutants. That would probably be my prediction in the coming weeks. Luamon Lual had 10 disposals, 3 marks, 4 tackles, a clearance, and was pretty excited to kick a goal. And he was a contributor. Didn't have a massive game, but he made some sort of contribution and was pretty lively. Jai Menzie, 10 disposals, 1 mark, 4 tackles. Didn't really have an influence on the game. So, look, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Jai. Obviously, he's kind of one of Brad Scott's favourites, I think. It seems to, be difficult for Jai to get out of the team, but he's been out of the team the last couple of weeks. I think there are others ahead of Menzie, and I think Menzie at the moment should probably stay out of the team. I think there are other players who are better for our long-term future than Jai. But look, he had the 10 disposals in the VFL game tonight. Darcy Parish played in the guts, as you would expect, and got some valuable game time, which he needed. Had 24 disposals in about 3 quarters. He was on a little bit in the last quarter, but they took him off just to manage him, which suggests, I think, that he's a pretty good chance of playing on Thursday night. He had 19 handballs, which was interesting. He was, winning the ball and clearances, and look, he had 7 clearances and 5 tackles as well. So Parish is above this standard. And whether they're going to give him 1 game or 2 games, I don't know. I don't think they know yet. Which is probably why they managed him a little bit and took him off the ground in the last quarter. I think if we didn't have a 5-day break, and really for him it's really a 4.5-day break because this was a Saturday night match. If we didn't have a 5-day break, I reckon he'd be playing in the seniors next week. Given that we do have a 5-day break, I think there's a pretty good chance he may play another VFL game, but I don't think the coaching staff have decided yet, and I think they'll make up their minds a little bit later in the week. Dylan Shield was pretty classy, as you'd expect, probably a step above this level. 21 disposals, 2 marks, 6 tackles, and 2 clearances. He teamed up with Parish on a number of occasions, as you would expect. Elijah Tsatas racks it up at this level. Very, very interesting discussion to be had on Tsatas. He's obviously above VFL level, but not quite, at least according to the coaching staff, at AFL level. He's kind of in this vortex matrix area where he's kind of a bit better than one level and not quite good enough for the other. And no one quite knows what to do with him. No one quite knows how he's going to fit into the AFL team. I think we all sort of want him to get into the team. We don't want him to be sort of wasted in the VFL. We don't want him to be, looking to be, traded or asking, to be traded to another team and then he guns it at another club. You can just see that happening, can't you? You can just see another Massimo D'Ambrosio situation, if he doesn't get selected and he's going to want it out. But he had 32 disposals, including 21 handballs, 3 marks, 5 tackles and 8 clearances. And he is a kind of natural footballer in terms of just getting the ball. He actually reminds me of Parish a little bit, although Parish's disposal is a bit better, in that he just knows how to find the ball. Some players just know how to get the ball. They read the play. They're good at getting clearances. They're just good in the middle. So look, he had a good game. 32 disposals, probably along with Parish, probably our best or second best player. So he's obviously got a chance of being selected this week. We'll just see how it goes with Tsatas. We're just not quite sure how the coaching staff see that he could actually fit in with his style of play to the senior team. Reece Unwin didn't really have a big influence on the game. He had 11 disposals, 1 mark, 2 tackles, and a clearance. He's a neat little player, neat little left foot player, but look, didn't really have a huge influence on this game. And Vigo Visentini, probably, I would say, our 3rd best player behind Parish and Tsatas from my observation. He had 20 disposals, 2 marks, 3 tackles, 30 hitouts, a couple of clearances, and probably the highlight was a really, really good rundown tackle on one of the small Richmond forwards. You don't really expect that from a big lumbering ruckman, but he ran 100 miles an hour and put a great effort in to lay a tackle when it looked like he was out of the contest. So Vigo is definitely a player that has got every chance of being in the senior team, depending what the coaching staff want to do with Goldstein and resting him and all that sort of thing. Another player of note, Oscar Smart, a VFL listed player who's not on the list, but is nominated for the mid-season draft. This was kind of relevant because he had a really, really good game. And he was probably the best player of the VFL listed players. He had 17 disposals, 4 marks, 6 tackles, and he kicked 3 goals in a that only kicked 7 goals. It just depends whether his position is one that we want to pick in the mid-season draft. He's a bit of a live wire forward. I hear the club probably wants to pick at least 2 key position backmen. Whether they then want to go for, a forward and a ruckman with the other 2 spots remains to be seen. But look, he's got a chance of being picked up by someone. I hope someone picks him up, even if it's not Essendon. He's a bit of a live wire and he played a really, really good game. So that is the VFL game on Saturday night. What do you guys think? Let me know. Leave a message in the comments. The Bombers got done by 22 points. Parish, Tsatas and Vigo, probably our 3 best players. Oscar Smart, an exciting game from the VFL. And some interesting performances, especially from Mutaz El-Noor from Richmond, who's the type of player that we might be looking at. Not quite sure what the recruiting staff think, but it was good to have a look at how he went around and what his likely strengths and weaknesses are. I'll leave it at that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers.